Hopefully I got a good thumbnail out of that. Hi everybody, welcome back to another video, and welcome if you're new. And if you're new, I would love it if you would stick around and subscribe. But with that being said, let's get into today's video. And for today's video, I finally have my best books of 2019 video. This took me like forever to decide because I read like 140 books last year. So yeah, I had a lot to choose from. So when I was deciding, I had it narrowed down to 25, but there's like 25, I was like, I can't narrow it down anymore, but 25 would take like forever to put in a video. So first I'm gonna have 10 of them be honorable mentions, and I'm just literally gonna hold them up, say the title and the name, and then put it aside. And then the other 15 I'm gonna like go into more depth about. So yeah, I thought that was a good compromise, so that way I could talk about all the ones I wanted to talk about, but without having to make this like an hour-long video. But yeah, and also I was supposed to film before I went running today, but I was going with my dad and I wound up not having enough time to do it before. So if I look gross, that's why. Sorry, but also like, it's fine. So let's get into my honorable mentions, and I have the honorable mentions divided into graphic novels, YA novels, and adult novels. So yeah, I'll start with the graphic novels. So the first one that I have is The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wong, and I also have A Lock and Key Volume 1 by Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez. And I have The Tea Dragon Society by Katie O'Neill. And this one I was probably the most on the fence about putting it in the honorable mentions as opposed to the normal best books part. Also, the honorable mentions are not in any particular order besides being divided into those 3 categories I mentioned, FYI. So now for the YA novels that I have for my honorable mentions. The first one I have is Beauty Queens by Libba Bray. The next is Moxie by Jennifer Mathieu. I think that's how you say it, I'm not sure. Yeah, you're a sweet little baby. You're so cute. The next that I have is The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand. Then I have Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. So on to the honorable mentions for the adult books. I have The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, and The 7 or 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I just realized that I didn't say anything about Daisy Jones and the Six, but that could be another one. So now we have my best books of 2019, and I did my best to put these in order from least to least best to most best, if that makes sense. But still, these are pretty interchangeable, so I wouldn't take that like as a set in stone kind of thing. And I was about to make another disclaimer, but I forgot what it was. Oh, and some of these, like, I know that maybe other books were like objectively better, but like my enjoyment level for these ones. So this is like primarily based on enjoyment instead of like objective, because objectively probably some of these that I mentioned like in my honorable mentions are actually better than the ones I have for my best books. So yeah, with that being said, let's get into my best books. The first one that I have is Go With the Flow by Lily Williams and Karen Schneeman. I'm not sure how to say it. So this is a graphic novel, there is this new girl at school and she gets her period and basically is kind of like being made fun of, and then these girls kind of help her out, and they eventually like realize all the school's money is going to like sports instead of like having period products in the like school bathrooms. And yeah, so the girls kind of like get together and start like having a menstruation revolution, as they describe it on the back of this. But for one thing, all of the art is in red, which this I won in a Goodreads giveaway. So I'm not sure if like in the final copies it's all in red, but I just think that's really clever since it's about periods. But besides that, I also loved all the characters. They were just like this one, I forgot her name, but she was just precious. And like, I don't know, all 4 of these girls are just awesome. I loved them. And I also liked how it brought up a lot of like endocrine health issues, like hormonal disorders, and I actually have a hormonal disorder, so that's just something that I really appreciated seeing in books, because I don't think I've ever seen anything try to tackle that. And it's also like written for younger kids, so just having something that's written that younger kids can understand the importance of it is just like, I think that's really important. So I just thought this was really important and I really enjoyed it. I read it. I wasn't planning on reading it in one sitting, but I got home from running one day and I was like, I don't feel like doing anything else just yet, so I'll just read like the first, like, I don't know, 50 pages of it. And then I read the whole thing. Next I have Full Metal Alchemist volume. This light is always glaring. Volumes 1 and 2, which are the only 2 that I read last year. And this is about these 2 brothers whose mom like died, and they were trying to figure out a way to bring her back, and in the process they lost parts of their body, so now they're like replaced with metal. And so now they're pursuing an alchemical treasure, the Philosopher's Stone. So yeah, these were just really fun to read, and I liked the humor in it, and like it was kind of satirical in some places, and I really liked his attitude. Like, he's really small and like he's the older brother, but like people would call him small and he would get upset, and it was just really funny. And I read these earlier in the year, so I don't remember a whole lot, but yeah, I really enjoyed reading these. Next we have Heretics Anonymous by Katie Henry, and this is about a boy who moves to a new school, to a Catholic school, and he is an atheist. So after hearing one of his classmates speak up in class against one of the teachers at the Catholic school, he thinks he's found like a co-atheist, I guess, but turns out she wants to be a priest. But they have this club called Heretics Anonymous where they kind of like fight against some of the almost like prejudices, I don't know, of the Catholic religion. So yeah, I really liked the discussion of religion on this, and there was a romance in this that I actually really liked, and I tend to not really care about romances. That's why I don't tend to read books that are just romances. If it's a book that has something else in it that has a romance in it as well, then that won't bother me. It won't steer me away from a book, but I also just don't care about the romance usually. So I actually did like the romance in this one, and I also liked how it talked about different issues, and it was also really funny. Another book that is also one of my favorites from 2019 is The Poet X, and I wasn't sure where to fit this one in, and I just remembered I don't have the physical copy of it, so I wasn't able to put it in my order of stacks of books, so I wasn't sure where I was fitting this one in. So now that I'm remembering it, let me just mention it. So The Poet X is by Elizabeth Acevedo, and it is about it kind of deals with topics of religion, and this girl turns to slam poetry, and I listened to the audiobook and I really liked it. I really don't know what to say because I don't have the synopsis in front of me, but yeah, I really liked the topics that it addressed, and I really liked the narrator doing it. in slam poetry, like reading it out loud. So next I have Into the Drowning Deep by Myra Grant. So in this book, 7 years ago, there was an expedition that was sent off to film a mockumentary about mermaids in the Mariana Trench, and that voyage was lost at sea. So now 7 years later, they are sending out a scientific crew, and so the main character is Tori, and her sister was on the mockumentary crew 7 years ago, and she has been into like marine science and everything. So she's on the expedition, and they go to try to find out like what happened to the crew and if mermaids are real or not. So, I mean, I wasn't scared in this book because I don't really get scared easily, but it was really good. I really liked I actually really liked the scientificness of it. Like, it was a bit slow at the beginning, but like that didn't bother me because getting to see like the scientificness of it just was really intriguing to me. I have no idea if it's accurate or not because I don't study marine science, and so I have no idea. But yeah, it was really good. Next I have Truly Devious and The Vanishing Stair by Maureen Johnson, and I'm gonna put this one down now. This series is about this girl named Stevie, and she goes to a boarding school called Ellingham Academy, where they basically get kids who are like prodigies in different areas. So like Stevie, she is obsessed with true crime stuff, and she wants to be like an FBI agent or something. And in the 1930s, I think, there was a famous kidnapping case that had never been solved at the school. So Stevie wants to go to this school so that she can solve the case. And then mysterious things start happening in the present day that are kind of like related to the old case. I really enjoyed this book because, for one thing, I loved the setting of the boarding school. Like, I don't know, it was like an old style mystery book, which I also love those. It's one of my favorite genres of books, like the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Like, I really enjoyed that one too, but I like this series a little bit better. So yeah, I really like the just feel of how it feels like an old style mystery, and I also like the boarding school setting, and I like the alternate timelines. Having the 1930s timeline too just like makes it even more atmospheric. And Stevie has anxiety. I think her anxiety representation in here is great. Next I have The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, and honestly I'm pretty sure everybody knows what this book is about by now, so I'll just say that it's related to the Black Lives Matter movement if you don't know. But yeah, I think it's probably pretty obvious why this is on my list, because it's just like, for one thing, like before I was reading it I was like, okay, I think I'll like this because like it has a lot of like important stuff to say. But I didn't anticipate that there would actually be like parts that make me laugh, and like how much I would grow to love the characters. So not only does it tackle those like really important topics, but it also has great humor, and the main character Star is obsessed with Harry Potter, and I was like, yeah, I can relate. And oh, also, is this not beautiful? This looks beautiful. Yeah. So, and there's also like, look how many tabs I put in there. But anyways, I keep getting all these group me messages from people in my class. I'm like, tomorrow's a holiday, why are you people messaging me? And similarly to the last one, my next book on this list is On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. And this book is about Brie, who wants to be a rapper, and then she starts getting told that she's like, I don't remember the exact words that they use, but like maybe raunchy. I don't know, my mom always makes fun of how I say that word. That's the best word I can think of off the top of my head. She just has like a lot of anger at how Black people are treated, I guess, and like how maybe Black women are treated, and so she kind of funnels that into her songs. And yeah, I listened to this on audiobook and it was phenomenal. This one is on my list for like really similar reasons to the hate you give. So next up I have Wondersmith, The Calling of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend, and this is the sequel to Nevermore, which I didn't make a favorites book list of 2018, but if I did, Nevermore would have been on there. But Nevermore is about this girl named Morgan Crow who has been told that she is a cursed child and that she's doomed to die on the eve of her 11th birthday. And on the eve of her 11th birthday, she is instead whisked away to Nevermore, which is just like a magical land. And she learns more about herself and the world, and so Wondersmith is the sequel. Yeah, I just really like Morgan's character and her friends and Jupiter North and the cat. I forget the cat's name, but there's a cat and it's sassy. I just have a thing for sassy cats like Mr. Kindly, which might show up later in this video. Anyways, this book is like really whimsical and I love the characters and the story's always really fun. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. Next up we have Keeper of the Lost Cities, and pretty much the whole series, which is all right here. This is the whole rest of the series. I've only read up to the 5th book, so like books 1 through 5, I guess you could say. Also, I'm not including rereads in this video. If you didn't pick up on that, my bad. So anyways, in Keeper of the Lost Cities, Sophie is living in the human world. She has all of these like problems, I guess, where she's just like hearing a lot of like voices in her head. And then a boy named Fitz finds her and tells her she's an elf, and so she moves to the elven world and basically just gets involved in the politics there and goes from there. And this book has just like an amazing cast of characters and a great plot, and I love how there's actually like adults who are present in these kids' lives in this book, because I feel like a lot of, well, especially with like YA books, the parents are just like conveniently not there or they suck. So yeah, I really like that about this series too. Kitty, kitty. Say hi. Her heart is pounding. She's not happy with me. Say hi. Are you upset? So next up we have House of Salt and Sorrows by Aaron A. Craig, and this is, I now have cat hair on my mouth. This book this book is a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling, and I'm not sure how like loose it is because I'm not familiar with the original. I just really love the description of like the fancy dresses and fancy shoes and fancy balls, but then like, oh god, and the fancy like dances that they go to. But I like how that's pitted against just like really creepy ghost stuff and like really dark things that are happening. And I also like the like ghosts in this story, and also I just really enjoy the love interest. So now we're into my top 4. Wow. The next book that I have is The 5th Season by N.K. Jemisin, and this book is really hard to describe, but it's basically like in a almost like post-apocalyptic world where in the world they're always just like prepared, or they always have to be like anticipating another natural disaster, and there are people with earth magic that can help with this, but instead of being like praised, they are pretty much like ostracized. So it's about the main character who comes home and her daughter's missing and her son was murdered. So it's about her going to like find her daughter, and also throughout the story it's like another natural disaster is gonna happen, so kind of like preparing for that. that kind of thing. So I really liked how intricate this story was, and towards the end, I don't know if I would call it a plot twist, maybe a plot twist, but yeah, my mind was like blown, and the Earth pretty much is like another character in this book, so that was really intriguing. So yeah, I have to be like, I read the second book, The Obelisk Gate, which was also really good, but I wasn't in the headspace to be reading it, so I didn't enjoy it as much, even though objectively it was still really good. And I started reading The Stone Sky, but like I didn't finish. I only got like 70 or 80 pages in. So this year, I really want to finish the series. I'll definitely need to read a recap of The Obelisk Gate, but yeah, then hopefully I can read and finish The Stone Sky. Next up, we have Vicious by V.E. Schwab, and this is about Victor and Eli, who discovered a way to help people get extraordinary powers, and the story takes place in dual timelines, like one where Victor's just gotten out of jail and he's going to get his revenge on Eli, and then also in the past when they were like first discovering how to make extraordinary people. So it was really interesting. I really liked the gray morality of Victor and Eli. I mean, Victor is like my baby though. And also just like how things work, I guess. It's just really intriguing to me. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. Obviously, I really enjoyed it because it's in my best books of 2019. So in case you didn't realize, I really enjoyed all of these books. Next up, we have Nevernight and God's Grave by J. Kristoff. And they both have like lots of tabs in them. And I'm about to put down God's Grave because I don't want to hold both of them. But anyways, Nevernight is about this girl named Mia Corvair, whose dad was executed and her like mom and brother were imprisoned by the like ruler of the empire. So she goes to this assassin school to learn how to become an assassin so that she can get vengeance on her family. And yeah, I love the humor in this book. I love Mr. Kindly. Like I said, we love sassy cats. Yeah, I just really overall enjoyed the story. I think I honestly might have liked God's Grave a little bit more, but yeah, I really loved the story. I loved the characters. I loved the humor. I loved the narrator. Like, the narrator is just like the best narrator I've ever read in my whole entire life. And Mr. Kindly, of course, because like if Autumn could talk, she's really sweet, but she can also be really sassy sometimes. So I feel like she would have some Mr. Kindly moments. And the last one that I have on this list is The Diviners and the rest of the series, which is over here, by Libba Bray. The Diviners is about this girl named Evie O'Neill who lives in Ohio, and she's kind of like gets into a lot of trouble, so her parents send her to New York City to live with her uncle in New York City in the Roaring 20s, because that's a great idea. I say that literally every time I talk about this book, but I'm like, oh, what were you thinking? But anyways, as she's there are these murders that are taking place, and she kind of helps her uncle solve the murders. And throughout the process, she discovers like diviners, and those are like just people who have powers. And then after this one, the plot becomes more intricate. Like, so I love all of the characters. There's so many good characters in this. I keep saying the same things over and over again, but like, this book is amazing. Just read it. Just read it. Okay? Okay? So that's it for my best books of 2019. That's a lot. So if you're still here after all of that, I'm really impressed. Let me know what your favorite book of 2019 was. And that's all I have. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon in my next video. Bye!